here. I'm going to pay attention here, and you can ask me questions here as well.
All right. Just give everybody a minute to get on. We are here live. Welcome, Dana, to my Facebook page.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. I am so excited. I can't believe that I'm doing lives. I've always been so anxious about lives, but it gets easier as I do them. So thank you for having me on.
You know, it helps my own anxiety about them too. So we do them together.
Yeah, for sure.
It's great. All right. Well, it's 1:01. Oh no, it's 1 o'clock even. All right. Well, I guess we better just get started, jump right into it. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Andrew Tisser. I'm an emergency physician, host of the Talk to Me Doc podcast, as well as a career strategist for early career physicians and those who haven't figured it out yet. And I have with me, I'm sure many of you know, Dr. Corriel of SoMe Docs. Dana, if you can introduce yourself.
I will. And just so that you all who watch this don't think it's strange that I'm also looking here at times, I've got my Instagram live going at the same time to, like I said to them, sort of kill two birds with one stone. I have been asked to speak slowly because I do tend to speak a bit fast. And so I will be speaking a bit slower so that you guys can understand as well. My name is Dana Corriel. I am a board certified internist, and I am the creator of a platform called SoMe Docs, which stands for Social Media Doctors, or Doctors on Social Media. That's the nutshell of it.
Well, that's awesome. So Dana, I brought you on here today to talk about a little dirty word we call marketing or social media marketing, and not in the traditional sense, because I think we both are of the opinion that physicians as a whole are a personal brand, no matter whether or not you have a business, a side gig, your own practice, or you're just part of the workforce. So if you could talk a little bit about why marketing, and specifically social media marketing, is important for doctors and other professionals.
Right. So this is a topic that really resonates for me, because I discovered very long ago that physicians had a space online that was not occupied, that was unoccupied, that the healthcare space online did not actually have physicians in there. Now, we for a long time didn't think that we needed to occupy that space, but it became apparent that we did when pseudoscience started popping up, or when people started to not get vaccinated, or when my patients would come in through my door and we would spend 10 minutes of the 15 minutes arguing about something that they read online that wasn't true, or that they didn't need. And so it became apparent to me that this whole online world was so powerful. It was impacting my patients, not just in what clothing they should wear, because their favorite influencer is telling them what clothes to wear, but also with health. And so I recognized that we needed to be online, but that we could also make positive impact. So that's where I started to dabble online, and I really did many things by doing it. I started to see that my career was propelled forward by dabbling in the online space. And I also started to have fun. I started to express myself more. I started being so much more creative, and it was pouring over into my practice space, because my patients could not only connect with me outside of work in ways that I curated, right, in ways that I could control, but they could also learn things that we didn't have time for in our patient visit. So I founded SoMe Docs, and the purpose of SoMe Docs is multifold. First of all, it's to provide networking spaces on all of the existing social media channels, so that we have our own spaces within and we can start to connect. And there's many reasons why we need to do it. Not only because we are innovators, and we actually, by connecting, can actually move the needle in healthcare in ways we haven't before, but we can also start to advocate for things that we just haven't before. Sometimes we didn't even recognize that people were not happy about certain topics, and we just thought it was us. We thought there was something broken with us when really it was the system that was broken. So that's just one example. So SoMeDocs gives a chance for networking. SoMeDocs gives a chance for learning for physicians. So either learning from each other or learning from the resources that I'm now building in SoMeDocs, things like lecture series of various kinds that are coming your way, both from physician speakers and from other non-physician experts. And then the third final thing that we do is we grow through marketing. So marketing is a third arm that I am very excited to be doing for my SoMeDocs community. And it's important for ways that Andrew and I are going to talk about now.
Love it. That was a really thorough, great explanation, Donna. I appreciate that. But I mean, I think a lot of people get the wrong idea about both social media and marketing together. I mean, I think, not to beat a dead horse with the figs issue recently, but I think we've seen marketing gone wrong with an unfortunate brand misstep, I guess, if you want to call it that, no matter how you feel about it. And I think people see it as like this gross, like you're trying to get something out of people. And I think physicians approach selling the same way. But we're not talking about selling today. We're talking about marketing and using a social media presence, perhaps to market yourself. So how do we get over this like ickiness of marketing, and what does it mean to be a personal brand?
So you've got to reframe, first of all. That's how we get over the concept of marketing, right? Because when we think of the word marketing and when we think of the word brand, we think of a physical product. So we think of a Coca-Cola can, for example, that's when it's marketed, it's placed in front of your eyes because the purpose is to sell it. And so for physicians, we've had such like a bad history with that word because we as physicians want to do good for the world and we don't want to sell. But marketing, by reframing the fact that in 2020, a brand can now represent your intellectual property. It can represent your thoughts, because when you think about it, right? When you tweet something out on Twitter, you are actually putting out your thoughts and your ideas and what you stand for. That in and of itself can be built as a brand. And so when you reframe and you think about it in that way, you can open up so many career doors. You can get a spot for speaking. You can write a book, okay? If people like what you have to say on a regular basis, then people can start to like you and your thoughts, and you become a personal brand. The likes of people like Oprah, people like Dr. Oz. It doesn't matter if you like those people in and of themselves or not. It matters that they've succeeded in building a personal brand. Now, the difference between Oprah and Dr. Oz and us is that they were able to do it with the backing of a company, right? So whatever company represents each of them poured millions of dollars into marketing them. We don't need that today. You can literally market yourself. You can build yourself an online brand, and then you can market it by literally dabbling on social media and continuing to put your intellectual property out there. And so that's the beautiful thing of today, is that the tools that were once available only to big companies and corporations, and that used to cost millions and millions of dollars, it's no longer that way. It is now, the tools exist in our phone. I was looking for my phone, but I'm doing an Instagram right after doing this. They all.
But I think, Donna, not to interrupt, but I think some people also see the social media presence of people, instead of having a personal brand, as we see the influencers, right? And I think some docs will be like, well, I don't want to be, taking pictures of myself in a suit, somewhere exotic with 16 filters to be able to market myself as a brand. I think there needs to be a distinction between the influencer industry, which is a real industry, and the entrepreneur mindset for using social media that way, or just representing yourself, your ideas, who you are as a brand as well. I think there's an important distinction to be made there.
There is absolutely an important distinction. First of all, understand that when you build your online personal brand, you are in the driver's seat. So nobody tells you how to build it because you're the boss. And that's also something that's super beautiful to physicians out there who are getting sick and tired of being employed and being told what to do. Being employed can be a beautiful thing, but when you're a physician trying to care for the ultimate person you honestly care for more than anyone, and that's the patient, it can kill us to be told what to do, especially when what we're told what to do doesn't fit. It's inappropriate to the patient plan. And so we've got a mismatch there and a disconnect. And so we are burning out as a profession. And this is one way, in my opinion, to take back some of what we own. And what I mean is that when you build a personal online brand, you are building something that you own, that you are the boss of. So you can continue to work for your large organization, right? You can continue doing that. Of course, we all need hospitals. Many of us need employers, not all of us, but many of us do. But we can still concomitantly on the side, we can build our own side gig in our own space. And as we build that, our worth increases. So if our worth increases online because we've built something that's so powerful online, it will translate into the real world. And let me explain it to you in more concrete terms, right? If you build an online presence and you become Oprah-like, or even just a fraction of what Oprah is, but if you become someone that people truly like and believe, then those same people are going to be lining at your practice doors or lining at the doors of your next book signing, right? And then that translates into your employer, because guess what? Your employer is absolutely going to want you to work for them, because that is a win-win. That translates into you bringing in the patients who want to see you.
You just made yourself indispensable, right?
100%.
So good they can't ignore you. Great book, right? That's the same kind of scenario. I mean, and it's also to piggyback off something you said previously. The social media community has brought me so many people that I now call friends, so many connections. And it's also so empowering to see that, no, you are not the only one dealing with these issues. There is so many people, so many fellow doctors out there dealing with the issues of burnout, dealing with the issues of whatever you may be dealing with. There's people out there doing the same. And collectively, as physicians, we are able to be empowered that way. So I think all those points are great. And just to share a pretty cool story, a recent connection, I don't know if anybody knows Jordan Frey of the, he is the, oh man, his brand name.
He just friended me. That's why I know.
Yes, plastic surgeon. Oh my God, what is it? It'll come to me in a second. So he actually lives very close by to me, at like 5 minutes away. And we would have never met if it wasn't for social media, because we connected somehow. He's like, oh my God, you live right there. So we were able to actually meet in person and be able to leverage each other's talents and get to know each other as well, and never would have met even though we lived 10 minutes away from each other, which is the power of social media. So I think we need to get away from seeing marketing and all this as a gross thing. And unfortunately, it's starting to become a necessity, whether or not you are employed, whether or not you're on your own, or whether or not you have a private practice. Because I would argue that if you're a private practice and you don't have a social media presence, you're going to get some interesting. I don't think you're going to do that well. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think, you're behind the ball maybe, but I don't think necessarily that everyone has to do it. I think some people honestly just cringe at social media. I don't think everyone has to do it, but you're right. I think the times are changing. And so if you're resisting it, that's fine. But first of all, if you're employed, your organization and system might be doing it for you.
Oh,
but
yeah.
What I say is how amazing.
The prudent plastic surgeon. I thought of it.
Prudent, that's right.
Sorry.
And again, I just became familiar. He sent a friend request, so I know him through there. Maybe I'll get.
Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay. The point is, right. The point is that you don't have to do it. You can have other people doing it for you. But again, if you look at it this way, then you can sort of visualize it better. The yesteryear of marketing involved spaces in magazines and in publications, right? And even today, we still have spaces like magazines in the New York Times and all the other publications online, and you could still get advertising spaces in those. But at this point, we have a way to advertise ourselves, and that's through social media, right? I mean, our heads used to be in newspapers many years ago. Our heads are now in our phone. So if you think about it, where else are we going to put our practices when we advertise them, if not in our phones, right? And in the spaces we build in our phones. To me, I visualize it almost like a separate world, like a world in which we are building up real estate property, and each of us is an entrepreneur of that real estate property online. And I know that that's confusing, so I'm not going to go into there, but when you own space online, you can actually advertise in that space as well. You could do whatever you want. Again, you're in the driver's seat. But when you build an online personal brand, you're basically occupying space in the online world. And that space can grow just like a real space in a real estate market out there. And it can be occupied by tenants, right? By people who are advertising their product or their services, or not. Or you can literally just use it to be the space of your intellectual property, right? But it's still a space that occupies something. So you can literally visualize it as a microcosm type of like mini world that's existing elsewhere.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Poetic. Yeah.
That is great. I mean, I think, I think for private practice and small practices, I think the benefits are clear. I think it's important perhaps to talk a little bit more about the benefits to the employed physician.
Okay.
Because I think you touched upon how perhaps it would make you more desirable or indispensable as an employed physician. But I think a lot of people are afraid of retaliation from their employer versus a lot of the other issues. So what do we see as the benefits and maybe some of the pitfalls of creating a personal brand for the employed physician?
Okay, and this is a good question, because the reason, one of the reasons I'm going on is because I actually consult on this. I've been doing it for a long time. I take on clients, and I actually literally had this exact conversation yesterday with a client, because he said to me, he was concerned because he didn't know how to approach it. He understands the benefits of doing it, but sometimes I help to reshape exactly what he will get out of it, for example. And then secondly, what he needs to do with his employer. At the end of the day, right, if we are employed, then we've got to look out for the legalities that come along with that, right? Yeah. Your employers are not stupid, right? They've got very powerful lawyers that are drafting your contracts, medical contracts for doctors. And we've got to be aware of the different clauses that they put in there. So for example, a clause in a medical contract can say that you cannot moonlight and you cannot do anything outside of your workplace that will bring you financial benefit, make you money. So when you start to create an online brand, and if that online brand seeks to actually make money, then you may be you may have a problem if your employer goes after you for that, for example, right? So you've got to be completely clear with your employer as to your intentions. I also believe in transparency with your employer, because I think your employer is still an important person, right? I mean, I'm not trying to speak to employers as bad people. I think we all need hospital systems, for example. Obviously, healthcare wouldn't work without hospitals, but I think that we need to establish a new norm where the physician is, it's horrible to say, but they're freelancing in their day job, because nowadays we are also building our personal brands on the side. And so it isn't fair to be working solely for that hospital system, although I understand from that hospital system their perspective, because We represent them. So if, for example, a scenario happens where you go online and you say something that is insulting to someone, or you make a HIPAA mistake, right? It can reflect poorly on your hospital system. So they are covering their butts in that way.
Yep.
So again, I understand their perspectives, but I'm here to help empower physicians. And I'm here to help empower physicians because I believe that we are intelligent, we are innovative, and we are capable of doing so many amazing things, but we've got to pave the road to actually getting there. And so building an online personal brand allows us to at least start dabbling online, networking, and figuring out what our next step is with our life, or how we can enrich our current practice in a way that helps our career further. So
Perfectly said. I think the baseline message is be careful, read your contract, and have a conversation, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to start something, you can have a conversation with your employer. Obviously, I'd recommend getting something in writing, but I think most of them, depending on who you're working for, will be fairly reasonable, assuming you're not going out there and putting out really, malicious stuff. But
well, if I could just say really quickly, first of all, I have seen situations where a personal brand did not speak to their employer, went out, built a personal brand, and actually made it really successful. And then the hospital system, they who shall not be named, they actually went after the person, and at some point we're like, well, the profits will now be ours as well. And that was an issue because they didn't do anything. They actually said that they didn't want to help this person. And so it's a problem there. So
Yep.
What I suggest always is that you actually need to take a few steps back if you are contemplating building an online personal brand of any sort, whether it's for intellectual property purposes or for a product or for just experimenting. You've got to sort of build that online foundation from the start. So there is some forethought that needs to go into it. So there's a lot of doctors out there that are saying, just do it, just go for it, right? The Nike way. But no, I mean, on one hand, yes, get over your fears by dabbling. But on the other hand, no, you do need to think that through. And part of that is by cleverly meeting with your organization and making sure that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. It's really important to do that from the get-go so that there's no surprises down the line and nobody stakes claim to what is rightfully yours.
Agreed. Especially for our academic colleagues, where you run into dean's taxes and all sorts of just read your contract. Also, guy, everybody should read their contract.
Yeah.
I think that's and if you are starting something, and I just do it smart. But aside from all that, I think getting started is a big hurdle for a lot of people because they see you and I, and for whatever reason, they think we're like intimidating or something. And we have something and we're coming on here live, even though we just talked about how it makes us both nervous. And how do you get started when there's so much out there and there's so many platforms, and should I be on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok, I guess, or whatever. How do you get started? What's step one or maybe zero?
So, and for those of you who are joining in later, I'm doing an Instagram live as well, which is why I'm looking here and there. But Andrew's asking which platform you should go on first. And there isn't a right answer, which is why people actually come onto SoMeDocs to either take a masterclass or to consult with people like me and like my team. And the reason there isn't the right answer is because they can all work for physicians, right? They have different people in each of them. There's different audiences in each, but that doesn't mean that you can't leverage that audience to your benefit. That doesn't mean that, just because you're not appealing to a certain age group that lives on Instagram doesn't mean that you can't channel the interest of the age group that's in your target audience from Instagram. So for me, it's about where your target audience lives, but that's not all. I think even more important is which platform do you resonate with? Which platform do you love posting on? Because at the end of the day, if you don't like tweeting 280 character tweets and you feel like that atmosphere is toxic, then you're not going to love it. Whereas, did I hit a nerve? Whereas if on Instagram, you love to post photos because it just feels good to you and they don't have to be selfies, to your point earlier. If posting photos is your thing, then great. Instagram may work for you. You just have to do it the right way and build up your online real estate there in that platform. And you can even leverage more than one platform at a time. So nowadays, for example, just look at what we're doing, Andrew and I, right? We are leveraging more than one space. Not only in that Andrew is taking advantage of live streaming into more than one space on Facebook, right? That's A.
And YouTube.
And YouTube, 3. So he's killing 3 birds with one stone. We've added a 4th bird because I am live streaming into Instagram. And guess what? Now my Instagram followers are getting acquainted with who Dr. Andrew Tisser is. And likewise, Dr. Tisser's followers are getting acquainted with who Dana Corriel is. And so that, again, is the beauty of social media, in that if you do it right and you build it the right way, they will come.
That's the truth. And, people also, like you said, people just gravitate to certain. I like Twitter for my own personal enjoyment, but it does nothing for my brand. Whereas, I think a lot of my people are on Facebook and Instagram. Whereas some people, depending on what you're doing, may find more potential people they want to talk to on LinkedIn or YouTube or what have you. And also, what do you like? I don't really like making videos, so I'm not really active on YouTube. But my suggestion is usually to just pick one and start, and then branch out from there. Because you never know I never liked Instagram, and then I made an effort to get on it over the last 6 months, and I'm really enjoying it now. So, things change, right?
100%. And again, I'm not going to talk about it. I was going to say how that actually fits, because what I've noticed, and this is a commentary coming completely from me and my opinion, that's a disclaimer. And so Twitter, for example, to me is a lot more of an academic space. And so, sure, I don't think that you are necessarily a good fit because you're more business oriented, and business is almost a little bit shunned in the med Twitter community, I've found. And so, I understand why maybe you don't fit. And I feel the same way because I am a bit more entrepreneurial. And so for me, Twitter is more about sort of like sharing pearls from your day and a lot of, so I get that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So, the title of this was using online strategies to market anything, right? So what if what if a doctor is a creative and wants to market physical products? And they've never been on social media before. How would you utilize social media to help market for, let's say art, for example? Let's just pick something out of a hat.
Oh, wow. So many different ways. I mean, I believe in building an online personal brand, but again, there's a difference between building an online personal brand for things like intellectual property and even for products versus building a company that sells products. And
Sure.
the reason, and there isn't a right or wrong, right? Branding is such a hot word today, but it doesn't mean that that's the only right way to do it, right? So my SoMeDocs is an example. I actually built SoMeDocs as a company, and it represents the community of physicians that I want to help grow. And so I am always in a pull and a tug situation with putting my face out on SoMeDocs because I don't want to be the face of SoMeDocs. So for me, it's less about branding because of Dana Corriel. I am trying to brand SoMeDocs as a company, as the space where physicians can shine and grow. And so branding isn't the best fit for that. So if you've got artwork to sell, then you could certainly... What?
I don't have any artwork to sell.
Oh, right. You did. You were using that as an example. If you've got a product, right? I mean, I know someone, let's give a plug to Dr. Talia Schwartz from my med school, who is now selling bathing suits for breast cancer survivors. So beautiful. If you are selling that, then wonderful. You can take out spaces. You could take a website where you can show your products, but then you can use online, I call them social media satellites, to channel in interest, to get interest for your products, right? And then to get interested parties to go to your website, the actual prime real estate that is where you sell those bathing suits, because you're not selling on social media. You're not selling in the satellites. You're not actually selling on Instagram. You're selling on your website. So again, it's so complicated. It really is like a whole new world that you have to figure out for yourself. So there's no right answer to how to build your brand. There's just your brand that you're building, or your company. And again, the difference between a brand and, let's say, like a company, is that a brand is where you're sort of inserting yourself. You're making people feel a certain way around your product or intellectual property. Jeff Bezos said something, a very great and famous quote, something like, "A brand is how you make people feel when you leave the room." Mm. Okay, so that's a brilliant way to describe a brand. And again, so there is a fit to companies even when there isn't a person who represents that company. Because, for example, right, Coca-Cola tries to make you feel all warm and fuzzy when it has a commercial with a little cute bear that's drinking, like, with the background of snow with a little cuddly baby bear. It tries to leave you with that warm and fuzzy feeling because it wants you to go grab a Coke. So that is great branding, even when it's marketing for a product. So again, whether you've got a product or intellectual property like thoughts and ideas, you can absolutely leverage online channels and different platforms to get people interested in you and to follow you. And in following you, they will be there when you build new things and when you birth new projects, et cetera. Again, in the same way as Oprah, right? If Oprah were she started a book club, and she started and she had so many people that believed in her and followed her that it didn't matter what she would open next. You would have people that would go up, above and beyond to follow her.
Agreed. No, that's really well said. And I think, it is complicated. I don't think we want to say that it isn't. It's simple, but not easy, right? There's a lot of moving parts. And I know I had a friend recently joke about how he was going to become an influencer, and another friend is a social media marketing specialist. That's her career, right? And she's like, you don't just become an influencer. My job all day long is social media. So it can be complicated. And for those listening that just really want somebody to help them do it for them, or at least help them get started, I just wanted to showcase a new product that you've released here with personal consulting. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have devised a way where I can personally consult. And not only that, but I can bring in a team that can sort of customize the path that you need for consulting. So what I mean is that you come to me, I spend time during a package, right? I spend my time helping you to pave that path, whether it's helping you understand what you need to do, or whether it's helping you understand, figuring out together which platforms you should dabble in first. But then building together from there. So let's say you really think that Instagram would work for you, and we decide that that's the first platform. Great. So I can spend some of that time teaching you, and then I can bring in a person that I believe can teach you how to use Instagram. And they come in for a portion of that package to teach you in the Instagram space. Versus if the next week of the package, we decide that now it's time to leverage LinkedIn, great. Now I bring in a LinkedIn specialist, because literally that's not only what I do and what I'm good at, but there's many other people in SoMeDocs, doctors dabbling in it, that can come in my place and actually teach you Well, because they have leveraged that one specific thing. Same with if you start a blog and you need to perfect your writing. I've got people that are fabulous writers, sometimes non-physicians, right? Sometimes actual writers, actual journalists. I've got an arsenal of a team that can help you customize to what you need. And that's the beauty of what I'm building. And then additionally, and I know that I told Andrew this just before we went on, but I am perfecting the membership option of SoMeDoc. So if you do that through Andrew, that would be great too. But the membership is coming. And so one of that arm is actually networking, which the next session is this Sunday at 7 p.m. It's amazing. We did it for the first time. We debuted 2 weeks ago, and it's basically a fast pitched networking session that takes your time into consideration because we are freaking busy. We don't have time for networking, but we need to. So it's one very compact hour where you get to pitch yourself, where you get to meet really cool people, and where you really get to leverage that 1 hour into whatever you need. So again, that's just one of the perks of membership that I'm building. So in the next week or so, we will have a better idea of how membership is working, so that for those of you that aren't necessarily ready for consulting, but want to just become a member and get benefits, because you don't become a member of SoMeDocs and get nothing. Like, I'm not about that. This is not just like an organization. This is my work and my company, and you get things for what you pay for. So I'm excited to do that.
I'm excited too. That sounds super valuable. Of course, networking is one of my passions. So definitely check that out. If you want to go get some direct consulting help, check out the link at the bottom of this video, and I'll post it in the comments afterwards. So it's andrewtisserdo.com/SoMeDocs. And again, I'll put a link in at the end. You'll be learning from the queen of social media here in the physician world. So
I don't know.
That would be awesome. But I think there's been a really, really interesting conversation, Dana. Thank you for coming on here. We'll leave some time for questions in a couple minutes, but I just wanted to say that really, I myself and the rest of the physician community appreciate everything you're doing to bring us together, to help leverage the power of social media to both combat burnout and come together as doctors. And I also want to say hashtag DO proud. So don't be hating on us, because
not fair. I agree.
No,
I
ridiculous. So any other parting thoughts, Dana, before we open it up for questions?
No, I mean, I think that each and every one of you physicians, of course, you're my physician family. I'm in a dual physician household. And so we love physicians, but we love everybody. Of course, we love our patients as well, and the whole healthcare team. But at the end of the day, I am working really hard to empower physicians, only because I feel like healthcare is broken and things are getting bad. And so by empowering our profession, we can hopefully bridge that gap between patient and physician, and we can bring back the beauty and the magic that was once healthcare. And so for all of you guys that are even hesitating, please reach out. There's always a fit for you anywhere in SoMeDocs. By the way, there's free options for being in SoMeDocs. There's free membership as well. My community is free. There are rules in there, because that's what happens with a free community, but there's different tiers. And so that's going to become a little bit more clear in the next week. Don't hesitate. And even if you want to just dabble in consulting and try it out, I have a 30-minute discovery call that you can purchase that's very, very easy to get. And you can hop on the phone with me and see if it's the right fit.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd really suggest everybody checking that out if you have any interest, because she knows what she's doing. Great.
And just because you were saying so many nice things about me, what I wanted to do is throw it back up on you and say that you and the other physicians are incredible too. Each of us is making our own impact in our own unique ways. And that's the beauty of the online world, is that there is space for everyone in it, and we can each leverage our strengths and help other people in doing that. So Thank you.
So you can find Dana on every social media platform with the handle SoMeDocs. And you can find me either as my name or Talk to Me Doc. on all social media platforms. And if you need some help with your career and figuring out what you want or how to get there, you can find me at my website, andrewtisserdo.com. So if anybody has any questions, we'll stay on here for a couple minutes. And of course, this will be posted, so you can post your questions later too. And Dana and I will try to get to all of them.
And also, I just wanted to say that you can find me personally, because again, SoMeDocs is my company. So I really try to highlight doctors in SoMeDocs and others. So you'll see that like there's lecture series coming that is filled with both experts that are non-physicians teaching physicians, and there's physicians teaching in there as well, but it tries to really highlight you. Whereas my personal brand is actually Dr. Corriel. So I'm working two things at the same time. So DrCorriel, Dr. Corriel is my personal brand, and you can find me across social media.
Great. And I'll tag her in the comments once we're done here.
Fabulous.
Any questions from the masses?
And listen, I can always just hop on and look at any questions that you have, and I can answer them later. So it doesn't have to be in real time. Can answer.
A lot of you guys are working right now, so we'll be seeing you later.
For sure. And if anybody here has questions as well, I'm happy to answer. Although I'm going to end my Instagram now. So bye to all my Instagram people that are watching. Download video.
All right. Well, let's see. Nothing here now, but we'll get to you all your questions later. Dana, thanks again. It's been fun as always, and we'll be talking soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. Bye, Andrew.